Let's do that medicine.
And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Great, 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 great. I'm so happy I think this has been the fourth on a roll for our CPDs. And I must say that kudos to all of us for participating. You encourage us every time to bring up our various CPDs. So by way of a protocol, I'm Prince Bedu, or Reverend Prince Bedu, a registered dietitian, and head of dietherapy unit, Tema General Hospital. I'm also the chair of Practice Standards and Accreditation Committee of the Governing Board of GANT. And I think this one will suffice for those who may not have known me. And I know from time to time, or as time goes by, those who don't know a bit about me will get to know as we interact, right? So we are talking about the from calories to real food, getting it right. This is our topic, and this is a sequel of our CPD that we had last year, from the calorific value of foods and their quantification. A lot of questions came, a lot of feedback came, and we said, okay, let's see how we can use that to build our own profession going forward. So I will pull down this slide and reshare my real presentation slide. All right. Okay. So sorry, I'll join you soon. Okay. Alice, please, is my slide on? Lecture, please, can you see my slide?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. All right. So today's discussion is very interesting, and I have the list of all the over 70 people who are online here. So I can call anyone to come in for us to have a very great discussion, because this is very crucial to clinical practice of of nutrition. This is crucial to our practice as dietitians, and then so if we would want to be very relevant to the client and to Ghanaians, as we say, GANT is the nutrition conscience of Ghana. So then, whether at the public health front or whether at the clinical front, we must. So RD lecture and RD Ziaba, I will make you co-host so you can help moderate those who may inadvertently open their mics for me. So RD lecture, good. So please, I'll make you a co-host. Then RD Ziaba as well. All right. So from calories to food, getting it right. I'll start from here. So our outline will be, I'll give a short introduction, then I'll just give a short overview of the nutrition care process, because I think for the past 2 years, we've taken time to deal with the nutrition care process. We've taken bit by bit and dealt with it very comprehensively. So I know that anybody who has just finished school would have been taught in school, or anyone who did the dietetic program who has been consistent with our CPDs will be very much abreast with the nutrition care process. So we'll just have a short overview of it. The key steps in planning a balanced meal. This is very crucial. We'll talk about it. And we'll have a short overview of serving and portion sizes. Then we'll now delve into the real deal. How, after you have calculated your calories and all that, how does it become real food on the plate of your client? That is very, very important. So as I've always said, dietitians or nutritionists are not the people, the first people who are telling the world that it is important to eat. Food has been part of human existence. So people have been eating since the first human was created. So everybody and their culture and the families they come from and how they eat. And they also know how they feed their sick. So if we are saying that we have acquired knowledge of how people behave, how the various foods are distributed across our regions in our nation, the sub-region, Africa, and the world, and if we are saying that you can put this knowledge together to make sure that somebody who is not well, the various knowledge, sociological knowledge, nutrition knowledge, food science knowledge, putting everything together to help people who are not well to be well, then that must be a very noble task. And it's not something that we must attend to lightly. So for when we say a dietitian is taking care of a clinical case, what we are saying is that the dietetics, it brings to the nutrition space predictability and precision in food combination and their outcomes. So it is not that somebody just came to say, oh, okay, you go and stop that, go and eat that. That one may not mean much. The people who know how to eat may even do better than that. So when we are coming and intervening, we must be predictable, and whatever we give must be precise. And the combinations we put together must give the needed outcome. So when we talk about calories, we are talking about the energy coming from the food we are eating. And almost everybody now knows about calories. So calories, and sometimes people joke with it, right? So we know that the calories come from various aspects of our eating experience. So, and that is what supplies every minute energy the body requires to function. So when you look at the emoji here, you see that, let me get my laser pointer. All right, so you see that when you look at this emoji, human emoji here, you see the calorie being depicted as lightning, sending energy to every nook and cranny of the human body, from the eye to the hair, to the knee, right to the toe. And this fire here depicts the calories. That is a form of energy, heat energy, right? But where do we derive these calories from? So we have the food nutrients, especially the macronutrients in terms of carbohydrates. So our carbohydrate foods will bring us, will give us energy. Then our proteins will also give us energy, and our fats and oils will also give us energy. So we know that anybody who set out to eat is setting out to eat because he requires energy, calories, that will sustain and maintain the person's health and help the individual to go through all the processes the body needs to go through, right? So we have, that is a bit about the introduction of the topic, calories and how it translates into food. We see that the nutrition care process is a systematic method that dietetics and nutrition professionals usually will use in nutrition care, and it is systematic, as we see, and it's a method. So one leads to the other. So we have the assessment and reassessment. So you assess the patient, you go through all the assessment tools. And as I said, we have done this over and over again, so I won't spend time on nutrition assessment, but it is important that we know that all that we are discussing is within the context of the nutrition care process. And also we have, after your assessment, thorough assessment, you have your nutrition diagnosis, then you have your nutrition intervention, you have your nutrition intervention and the monitoring and evaluation. So this is what the dietetics or nutrition professional is using to achieve an end or to get a predictable outcome. So we will now talk about the 9 key steps in planning a balanced meal. And you know, if somebody will visit a dietitian and the person will leave the dietitian's consulting room with anything less than a balanced meal, with anything less than a combination that can achieve the specific goal for which the person visited the dietitian, then we have a big problem. So that is how come from time to time we do all these things to refresh our memory. You know that not all of us see all clients at the same time, or different, or the various conditions that we see. So as we do this and we share experiences, it helps us to be able to meet the needs of our clients. Now, so we know that these 9 key steps are all broken down from the 4 steps we just looked at in the nutrition care process. So in planning a balanced meal, we know that, yes, the client will be assessed. Then we know that as part of the assessment, we assess the caloric requirement. So when all is said and done, all the food that you are putting together for the client, how much energy must it produce? And and why are you arriving at that conclusion? So we have the calories. Once you have determined the calories, we know that we don't eat only one food, because if somebody is on a particular calorie, the person can eat only sugar and can attain the calorie. The person can eat only kenke and can attain the calorie. But we also know that the calorie is in the context of nutrients. So how do you apportion the calories to the various macronutrients? So after you have determined your caloric requirements, you have to determine your percentages in terms of the caloric contribution of the various macronutrients. Then when you have done that, you convert your percentages to calories. So you acquire, there are mechanisms, methods. How do you arrive at calories? After you have arrived at calories, how do you distribute the calories? So you determine the percentages, the caloric percentage calorie contribution of the various macronutrients. Then now you convert your percentages to calories. You convert your percentages to calories. So after you have assigned percentages, how much of the various macronutrients, how much percentages are assigned to the various macronutrients? So in terms of your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats and oils. Once you get your assigned percentages, then you can now convert your calories to the respective macronutrients in grams. Now remember, we are now having a journey from calories to your food on a plate. So you convert your calories to respective macronutrients in grams. Then we come to number 6. You account for nutrients contributions from all pre-allocated foods, if any. So sometimes after you have done your nutrition assessment, you've taken your social history, you've taken all that, you realize that there is some particular food that the clients eat almost every day. And that you have to put it aside and treat it specially. Also, you realize that in a healthy meal plan, we have the framework. You need to have some quantity of vegetables, some quantity of fruits that are non-negotiable. So that we don't fall into the pit or the trap of giving or apportioning the calories to only one group of foods. It's necessary that we allocate some foods. So you will allocate your fruits, you allocate your vegetables. Remember that fruit and vegetable mainly in terms of the macronutrients will give us the carbohydrate. So once you allocate them, you can take out your carbohydrate and work with it. Yes, I realize that many people are still joining. Kindly mute yourselves so that we can move smoothly, right? So then number 7, you account for significant minor nutrients that accompanies their respective macronutrient in a particular food. So there are two schools of thought here. Some people think that, let's say when you take yam and you take cereal, let's say maize, or you take oat, or you are taking wheat or cassava, there are proteins in them. Some people think that they are too minor. They are too minor, so they don't actually need to be, they don't actually count, okay? And something that no matter how small they are, they count. Well, what is my position? Over the years, over my years of practice, I am in the middle. You know, there are some people, because all these calories and conversion to food, they are estimations. And we do our best to make sure that we are closer to the real quantity as possible. So if the person is not in the ICU case, it is not an ICU case, or it's not a very delicate case that even a gram of protein can cause a problem, or a gram of fat can cause a problem, you may ignore it, even though it will disorient your percentages. But then when you are dealing with an ICU case, you have a special case, you have a case that the nitrogen must be removed totally and all that. You cannot say it's small, because that's 1.5 gram or 10 grams of proteins coming from your oats can cause a lot of trouble. So I say that every dietitian must make it a point to know how to account for minor nutrients, so that whenever you are in that position or that place that you need to do exactly what you have to do to save a patient, you will not be found wanting. So you have to account for significant minor nutrients that are found in the macronutrient. So you have a granite that has a lot of fat, but it also has carbohydrate, and it also has proteins. So you can't ignore it and say, oh, granite is a fat, is the dominant macronutrient is fat, so you only treat it as fat. You may cause trouble, and you will not have the perfect food on your plate from what you have calculated as your calories. So, and number 8, you have to convert your final grams of the macronutrient to food. And then you have to distribute the foods to the respective snack and meal times. So then the calculation you did from your assessment must manifest as real food that the person you are giving to will not say dietitians' food are difficult to follow. If we do it well, we will give the food that people want, and it will still be within the caloric limits that we have calculated. All right, so we can move on now. So overview of serving sizes. Last year, we took time to delve into this, so I'll run over, like I said. So we know that a serving size is a standardized amount of food. Remember, standardized amount of food. So if you're operating in Ghana, you may be using the GDA serving sizes. You may be using the models and the serving sizes the University of Ghana Nutrition Unit did with the various measurements we have in Ghana. You may be using a serving that you may have locally developed. Now, what is important is that anytime you pick that amount of food, all the nutrients that you have said are in that food must be found in it. So a serving size is a standardized amount of food. It may be used to quantify recommended amount or represent quantities that people typically consume. So you can have somebody going out, or like Ghana. Right now, we have set out our standardization committee to finish our standardization work for us as Ghana. So you can have us, as we go around, we see how kenkey sizes are and what people usually buy. If many people usually buy the 4 cedi kenkey, we could pick that as our standard and say the standard, the 7 size of kenkey is like the 4 cedi size, which is like maybe a big orange. That would be our standard. There's no question about standards because that is what that community. So when you go to the West, their standards are a little different from when you go to the Middle East. But then they will tell you how much of nutrients are in that amount they are calling a serving size. So for you as a dietitian, all that you need to know is you have done all your calculations, and when you want to use serving size to measure or convert to food, we'll get there. You just look at, okay, what is the standard here? Okay, they are saying that fufu is one baby head size. That is the standard. I'm just using that. If that is the standard, how much of carbohydrate is in that serving size? How much of carbohydrate are you giving to your client? So would the person use the full standard or half of the standard or quarter of the standard or 1/8 of the standard? That is the duty of the dietitian to do. So the serving sizes can help you when choosing foods, when comparing similar items. So it is out of serving sizes that we get what we call exchange list. Please, serving sizes are not the same as exchange list. So exchange list will be like, okay, so when I pick, how much of fufu will I pick to give me the same gram? Let's say you can have a standard gram. We are having 20 grams. How much of fufu will give me 20 grams? How much of yam will give me 20 grams? How much of cocoa will give me 20 grams? So you want to compare exchange list so that if I want to pick cocoa to replace my fufu, how much will I pick? That is the exchange list. So that is different from serving sizes. So sometimes we use them and they become a bit confusing, but they are really, really different and unique in themselves. All right. So we have, usually you use like fist size, you use palm size. So we have palm size, fist size, you have middle finger size, thumb size. We use a slice of orange, a bar of chocolate. These are what we call the measures, handy measures. These are the measures people use to describe serving sizes. Serving size, there's no standardized amount. That is what people use to describe it. So now, what does the dietitian do in his or her free time? You know, if you want to be a good dietitian, or the dietitian that would want to help the patient and the client that sits in front of him, must always have his serving sizes at the tip, at the fingertip. You read as much as possible. You relate to a lot of foods as much as possible. When you are not doing anything, you must have a good knowledge of the food resources in your area. If you are in Tema, like myself, if you are in Tamale, if you are in Yendi, if you are in Bogatanga, if you are the border town or with Togo or Ivory Coast, you must know the food you have and how they will sit into or fit into your serving sizes, right? So a very good knowledge is very important. So the dietitian who is very flexible with quantities makes the dietitian very useful to the client. So when the client mentions anything to you, you can relate and decide how you will use what the client has told you to give them exact amount of the calories you have calculated. Very, very important. All right, so if people consult with you as a dietitian and end up with diet or meal plans that does not differ from what they have been having all along, then we are not needed. Then dietitians are not needed. If they came to visit you, if they came to visit you and you only gave them, you wrote in your documentation, you are giving the person 2,000 calorie diet. But what you actually gave to the person is 1,700 calories. You have done the person a great disservice. So if a dietitian purports to have given a meal plan with a given calorie and specified amount of macronutrients and it turns out to be significantly different from the intended amount, then I'll call it a tragedy. That's why I've written it in red. Very important. Now, so the portion, we just talked about the serving size, and we see that the portion size is the amount of food actually we are giving to the client to eat. The amount of food that we are actually eating. So the amount of giving food one chooses to eat is a portion. So sometimes your portion will be less than your serving. For example, an egg is a serving. But let's say if you have a cholesterol patient or you have assessed that the person doesn't need yolk, you can give like 4 eggs without the yolk. In that case, you are eating more than a serving of egg. If there's no yolk, there are 2 eggs. So the 4 eggs will become now two servings in your portion. So you can have several servings that are less or more than a portion. That are less or more than a portion. Okay. Thank you. Right. So that is portion size. So we shouldn't be confused about what a serving is and what a portion is. A serving is the standardized amount that has been established. That this is how this is anytime you are looking for a serving of rice, this is it. Then a portion is how much you are eating, which could be less than a serving or more than a serving. Right. So a serving is like the reference point, and a portion is the actual amount you eat. So we now come to, so these are some of the handy measures I spoke about earlier. So a palm size, a serving of protein, 1 palm size, a serving of vegetable, 1 fist, a serving of fat, 1 thumb, a serving of carbohydrate, a cup or 1 cup or 1 cupped hand. So as you can see here. So this is a serving, but somebody could eat half cupped hand of pasta or rice, and that person has eaten a portion that is less than a serving. Somebody can eat half palm size of protein, of meat, and that is less than a serving, which is 1 palm size. So a serving is not the same as the portion, even though it can be the same as the portion, depending upon how much the person is eating. And that one will also be dependent on how much food you actually get from your caloric conversion. So you are converting your calories to food. How much does it play out? If it plays out to be less than a 7, why not? If it's more than a 7 or equal to a 7, that's it. So we must not be confused with the serving and portion wordings or what are connotations. Okay, so this is another serving and fist size and all that. All right, so now we have this one. I have been involved in it. How much of our local foods contain some amount of macronutrients. So these ones are exchange list. So we have, if you have one, let's say with a 1 big or 1 normal size apple or big plantain, it will have around 40 grams of carbohydrate. And if you have this size of cassava, it has 20 grams of carbohydrate. So half of the normal big plantain will give you an equivalence of this size of cassava, or this size of bread, or this size of bread. If you have pineapple of this size, it is equivalent to about 15 grams of carbohydrate. So, and if you have a fish of this size, it's about 7 grams of protein. Now, these ones are exchange list. They are not serving sizes. Unless Gant come up and go around and say, okay, we look at how much cassava people eat and all that people usually will eat. Or in Ghana, this one will be a standard that when we use, everybody can relate to. and they say, okay, this is a serving size of cassava. If that is what they come to, then now we can reference it that, oh, this is a serving size of cassava. So then when you are calculating your portions, you calculate it by this. But as it sits now, it looks more like exchange, because this one has the same 20 gram, this one has 20 gram. This is a double of it. It's more like exchange than a serving. So we can see here, this half moon size yam is 20 gram. This half small size potato, Irish potato, is 20 grams. So you see that it's an exchange, more of an exchange than a serving. Then here too, you see, we saw up there that here 7 grams, small size of this of yam, of fish is 7 grams. And when you come here, you see that it's 14 grams. So you have 2 of the 7 grams in this size of fish, if you take your meat to be like this. So these are examples of exchanges that could be used to make putting food together easier. All right. So these further examples of serving sizes. So look at it. Look at this one. Lean meat. A serving is 3 ounces. And remember that these serving sizes I'm mentioning here are categorized as Western serving sizes. So these are American, British, and more of Canada. So when you are working in their context and they talk about a serving of lean meat, they are talking about 3 ounces, which are about 3 matchbox sizes. So about 3 matchbox sizes together, which is like a palm size, is giving you 1 serving of meat. When we come to fish, it's about 3.5 ounces. So about 3.5 matchbox sizes of fish is 1 serving. It's 1 serving. So you realize that you may finish calculating your calories into food, and what you may have to give to the person to eat for lunch may be 2 matchbox sizes, which is less than a serving of meat. So the portion now becomes less than the serving. I hope we are getting the drift. Then we have cooked beans, 1/2 cup or 2 stew ladles rounded is a serving of beans. But you realize that if you are coming to use beans in your meals, you realize that beans has carbohydrates, it has proteins. So you will not just pick beans and say beans is a carbohydrate meal or a protein meal. So you must factor it during your calculation. That is how we are saying that it is important to know the journey you have to go through from calories through to real food on the plate. It's important. You have to know your food, know their combination, know what they are made of, so that you can be able to combine them to give a good meal that we can call balance to your client. Look at egg, boiled egg, 1 whole egg or 2 albumin is a serving. Peanut butter, 1 tablespoon is a serving. But somebody can spread 4 peanut butter, 4 spoons of peanut butter in their bread. That person is taking a portion that is about 4 times the serving. When we talk about nuts, so cashew nut, groundnut, and all that, 1/2 cup is a serving. 1/2 cup is a serving. So when you pick the 1/2 cup, then it is your duty as the dietitian to know what the 1/2 cup of almond nut entails, 1/2 cup of groundnut entails. So when you are factoring it into a meal for your client, you know what to do. All right. So further examples, when it comes to green leafy vegetable, 1 cup or 2 soup ladles of green leafy vegetable, kontomire, bokoboko, alefu, is about a serving. Then cooked is about 1 soup ladle, 1/2 cup. Bell peppers, 2 small sizes is a serving. And carrot, 1/2 cup is a serving. So these are standardized serving sizes. And I told you earlier on, these references are from outside our jurisdiction. So that is how come Gant is doing the standardization.
Prince, it seems you are muted.
Sorry. Oh, so you were not hearing me. Sorry. Oh. Sorry. Thank you very much, Adilecha. Thank you. So I was saying that I think I spoke about the leafy vegetables. I talked about oranges. That one large orange is a 7. Grapes, 16 seedless grapes represent a 7. And apple is one small size. So if somebody takes 2 apples, the person is taking, the portion is more than or is twice a 7. Then banana is 1 large or 2 dwarfs. Berries, half cup. Pineapple, half cup. Cooked rice, half cup or 1 steel ladle rounded, which is 79 grams of cooked rice, is a 7 of rice. Then packaged cereal, normally you have to refer to the label to know what which amount refers to a 7. Then oatmeal, you can have up to 12 dessert spoonfuls of dry oats. Yam is 2 half-moon slices or 1 cup. Plantain is 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of, that is 2.5 large, 2/3 of a large size of plantain. Skim milk is 1 cup. Skimmed milk, 1% is also 1 cup. So these are 7 sizes. So I said that we are now coming to go through all that I have said. What does that actually mean on the ground? So a 38-year-old adult male has been seen by you. So Adi Lecha, Dr. Sildadi, Dr. Boateng, Alice Diaba. You have seen the case. RD Yannick. You have seen a case, 38-year-old adult male, and has been seen by you, and the following were the outcomes. So as per assessment, the person requires 2,500 calories per day. And as you also saw that the person takes about a 1/4 cup of roasted groundnut every day, as well as about 250 ml skim milk. He drinks milk before maybe he sleeps or something. So he's a typical Ghanaian who eats mostly the Ghanaian diet and has come to you. You have done this assessment and he wants a balanced meal plan so that he will live healthily. How can we help this man? So in this case, we go to, thank you, Harriet. Thank you, Harriet, for alerting us. Thank you. So in this case, we go through the steps. We talked about 9 steps. Step 1 and 2. You have to assess and determine calories. So point of interest from our case study, the daily caloric need is 2,500. Roasted groundnut intake was a 1/4 cup daily, and skim milk 1% intake is 250 ml. So these are points of interest as far as steps 1 and 2 are concerned. Then we come to step 3, determination of caloric contribution of macronutrients. Now here, we know that we have a bar, or how will I call it? We have a range within which we operate as professionals. So the acceptable macronutrient ranges, that is macronutrient distribution ranges, carbohydrate is what, 45 to 65%. Protein is 10 to 35%. Fats and oils, 20 to 35%. So we see that in this case, it is purely in the bosom of the dietitian to determine where their ranges will fall. Because the patient is sitting in front of you. You are the one observing the patient. You know where the patient tilts, whether the person requires very low carbohydrate or high carbohydrate or medium carbohydrate. So I chose because for our purposes, and I can give reasons for that. I chose 60% for carbohydrates, 20% for proteins, and 20% for fats and oil. I settled on this because of the person is a Ghanaian eater. He will need a substantial amount of carbohydrate foods and substantial amount of protein. So I need to get him enough carbohydrates and enough proteins. That's how come I used this 60-20-20. But it is entirely in your call as a dietitian to decide where to fit in. So step 4, convert your percentages to calories. So 60% of 2,500 calories comes to 1,005. Proteins, 20% comes to 500. Fats, 20% comes to 500. Please, I'll pause here on step 4. Up to this point, please, is there any confusion or any clarification anybody would want to seek before we continue? Okay, so far so good. Silence means consent, right? Thank you. So we can go on. Step 5, conversion of calories into grams. So we are saying that we are now converting our calories into grams. So carbohydrates, we are converting it to grams. And we know our conversion factor. 1 gram carbohydrate is 4 calories. 1 gram protein is 4 calories. 1 gram fat is 9 calories. So we'll divide the various calories accordingly. So 1,500 divided by 4 for carbohydrates will get us 375 grams. Proteins 500 divided by 4 will give us 125 grams. Then fat 500 divided by 9 will give us 56 grams.
Different.
Yes.
How different?
Yes.
Please,
Hello. Yeah.
this place you are rushing a bit. I couldn't get the convention well. Can you please take it easy for me?
Sure. All right.
Carbohydrate is something.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. So here, the step 5, we are now converting the allocated calories to the various macronutrients into their respective grams. And I'm saying that here, carbohydrates, 1 gram carbohydrate gives us 4 calories. If you metabolize 1 gram protein, you get 4 calories as well. But if it is 1 gram fat, you get 9 calories. So if we have to convert these calories into their respective grams, then for carbohydrate, 1,500 grams, we'll divide it by 4. Because this is a simple proportion. If less, more divide. So, and if more, less divide. So if 4 calories gives us 1 gram, then 1,500 calories will give us what? It's more than 4. So 4 will divide 1,005. Then we get 375. Proteins, 500 kilocalories. It's more than 4 calories because 1 gram of protein gives 4 calories. So 500 will be divided by 4 and we get 125 grams. Fat, 1 gram is 9 calories. So if you want to know how many grams of fat you get from 500 calories, 500 is more than 9. So 9 will divide 500 and we get 56 grams. Please, is that clear?
Very well said. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, so we come to step 6. Now, this place is very interesting. Let's pay very much attention so that we get it. We must account for nutrient contributions from all pre-allocated foods. And I said, when I got to step 6, I explained that because we need the food to be balanced, we need to make some interventions on the way. We know that for a food to be healthy, you need at least 5 servings of vegetables and fruits so that you can say that your food is balanced and healthy. So here, we have to make allocations for vegetables. And here, I chose to make allocation for 3 servings of vegetables and 4 servings of fruits. The reason is that normally, a typical person who is a Ghanaian eater, when you give him 1 orange as his mid-morning snack, he will tell you that, can't I take 2? So I looked at the person's preference and gave 4 servings so that I can give, let's say, 2 apples or 2 oranges or 2 palm sizes of watermelon. That will make him happy. But it's still within my calories. So I allocated 3 servings of vegetables and 4 servings of fruits. So here you see that I have met my at least 5 servings of fruit and vegetable requirement. Now, in my nutritional assessment, I realized that the person eats cocoa and Tom Brown and other things, and he adds sugar. Sometimes when we are doing a balanced meal, we don't consider that. We forget and ignore sugar. So if you don't factor it here and you go to a location, you cannot put it there because you will not find any room for it. So I gave 4 teaspoons of sugar allocation per day. And here too, I am relying on at least 10% of the carbohydrate given to a client could be refined. I gave very less than 10%, 4 teaspoons or 4 cubes of sugar. Now remember that the person liked taking 250 ml of skim milk, 1% skim milk. 1%, right? So I made allocation at the time we were talking. It says that it could actually be, and 1 cup is 250. So this is it, 1 cup, 250 ml. Then the person has a roasted granite that is on his study desk. That's when he's learning from intermittently, he can put his hand and put some roasted nuts into his mouth. So we made allocation for a 1/4 cup of peanuts. So these are allocations. These are allocations. Very important. These are allocations. So what do they mean? What do these allocations mean? Because we have to calculate their calories and remove it from, we have to calculate their calories and remove it from the total we are going to use for the rest. So that's how come it's important we take care of it. So now, the carbohydrate. How much carbohydrate do we have in these allocations? So we have seen that when you take lettuce, contomere, you take boko boko, you take okra, you take garden eggs, they have a range. They have a range of amount of, they have the range of the amount of, just a minute, please. Sorry, thank you. I had a bit of distraction. So you can have contomere, a serving of contomere will give you somewhere between 4 and 6 grams of carbohydrate. When you take garden eggs, it is a little more. When you take okra, it's a little more per serving. So we have to have a constant amount or an average amount that we can multiply the servings of vegetables, because the clients will not eat contomere every time. You'll be eating various vegetables. So from this 6.5, it's a work we have done that is yet to be published. We took a lot of the vegetables, how do you call it? Local vegetables and exotic cabbage, carrots, green pepper, and all that, plus our local, and looked at how much carbohydrate is in the serving. How much carbohydrate is in the serving? And we realized that we have an average of 6.5. When we put all the carbohydrate together and divide by the number of carbohydrates we get. Now here, this factor can change if your client only eats maybe 1 or 2 types of carbohydrate. That's 2 types of vegetables. That's one you have, if assuming the person takes contomere and okra and garden eggs only as his vegetables, then you could pick how much of carbohydrate is in these, is in a serving of these 3 vegetables and find the average. Then you can use that to do this calculation. I used over 15 vegetables and I got this 6.5. So it is the duty of the dietitian to get this factor right, depending upon the type and the variety of your vegetables. So now if I get, so remember we are estimating how much of the macronutrients these allocations are contributing. So 6.5 by 3, we get 19.5 grams of carbohydrate from the 3 servings of vegetables. So here, if you can see something here, you realize that the 3 servings of vegetables, which are a lot, is only giving you about 20 grams of carbohydrate, which is just about 1 or half moon slice of yam. Right. So you see why we will still say that people should take more vegetables. So if this patient was actually, or client was a diabetic client, I would have given a lower carbohydrate, lower percentage, but I would have increased the allocation in terms of vegetables. So because no matter how much I increase this, the amount of carbohydrate that I will get from it will still be low. All right. So here, fruit. The standard sizes of fruit we have, one fruit is 15 gram carbohydrate. So times 4 will be 60 grams. Then sugar, I gave 4 teaspoons, which is 5 grams, almost 4 points. So about 5 grams of carbohydrate times 4, which is 20. Then the skim milk, 250 ml of skim milk, 1%, will give me 12 grams of carbohydrate. And the peanut, half cup of peanut will give me 7.85 grams. So when I put together all the allocated foods, I get 119.35 grams of carbohydrates. I know it is a lot in our heads now, but that is the profession we've called for ourselves. Okay, so Eric is asking, how varied were the amounts of carbs in the sample of vegetables used? All right, so we'll come there. I think I've even addressed that, but Eric, thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your feedback. So the variation must be accounted for. So for 6.5, I used about, is it 15? Yeah, about 15 different vegetables, serving sizes. And I found out how much carbohydrate was in them and found the average. Yeah. So this is the total amount I got from here. Remember that these figures are the reasons why the indigenous DGA standard, GAND standardization committee has been formed to work on, so that we can be on the same page at every time when we are referring to these. Okay. So, all right, we can move on now. So we can have just a minute. All right. So we move on to the proteins. So you see that how much of proteins will these allocated foods give? How much of proteins will these allocated foods give? Sorry, I had light out, so I have come to perch on in somebody's office. That's how come there's short breaks. Forgive me. So proteins. So you see milk. The 250 or 1 cup of milk gives us 8 grams of proteins. Then the peanut, a 1/4 cup of peanut gives us 8.6 grams of proteins. So we have 16.6 grams of proteins. Now, you can imagine if you didn't isolate these and you just went ahead to divide your foods. You will now get to the end when you are allocating foods that, hey, where do I put peanut? Because peanut is not only fat, nor protein, nor carbohydrate. So it's very important that you allocate it before you get to the place of allocation. All right, now let's talk about the fat. How much fat are in the allocated foods? So you see here, for fat, we only had milk, 2 grams, or 1% skim milk, 250 ml will give us 2 grams. Then peanut, fruits and vegetables, negligible fat. So we didn't have any fat from there. So here we have peanut 18.1. So the total fat here is 20.1. So the allocated food gives us 119.35 grams of carbohydrates, 16.6 gram protein, 20.1 gram fat. Very, very, very important and very telling. So we have now the quantity of nutrients after deducting allocations will now become, remember that when we converted to grams, we got 375 for carbohydrates. Now, the allocation is giving us 119.35. So we have to deduct that from what we got earlier on before we proceed. So we get 256 here. Now, for proteins, we had 125. And here, the allocation is giving us 16.6. So we have to deduct it from here. Then we get 108 grams. Fat and oils was 125. Now we have 20.1 here. So we deduct 20.1, we get 105. I hope we are making progress. Okay. So Alice is asking of the, okay, so you are saying the exchange list, a serving of vegetable is 5 gram carbohydrate. Yes, that is the exchange list for the exotic vegetables. If you add the okra and garden eggs and other things to it, it will be higher. It will be higher. That's why I'm saying that what I've done is not published, but you realize that the exchange list we use are Western, and it doesn't include some of our vegetables. That's how come there may be that variety or that variation. Okay. Yes, Eric, you're asking of the standard deviation. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yes, so let's get the basis. Let's get the basis. Then we can now talk about that. I just picked the average. I can refer to the standard deviation for you later. Yeah. Okay. So this is now where we come to quantities of nutrients after deducting allocations. Now we can go on. Let's move on so step 7, we have to account for significant minor nutrients in the foods. Significant minor nutrients in the foods. Because as I said earlier on, if you are taking groundnut, will you ignore the proteins in the groundnut and take only the fat? If you are taking milk, will you ignore the carbohydrates? Will you ignore the proteins? Will you ignore the fat? Because in milk, fat is higher, followed by carbohydrates, then the proteins. So we can't ignore the various nutrients in the foods that have significant combinations of the various macronutrients. So proteins in carbohydrate foods. Here too, I know Eric will ask me another question here. Here too, average of 2 grams per 20 gram portions was calculated, was arrived at. So we realized that we took yam, cassava, plantain, cocoyam, then we added the cereals. So the sorghum and the rice, oats, and all that. Looked at the amount of protein in them per 20 gram. So we were asking, when you pick a portion of that carbohydrate foods, that gives you 20 gram. How much of protein? So an average amount of 2 gram of protein was found in a portion of the vegetable of the carbohydrate that gave us 20 gram carbohydrate, a portion of the food. So you pick a portion of yam that will give you 20 gram carbohydrate. How much of protein was in. So 2 grams here. We had an average of 2 point something, so rounded to 2 grams. Remember, I'm using these ones to provoke all of us. To provoke us, because we don't have published work on it. Our standardized foods, we have a miniature standards exchange list. We don't have a complete one that you can say, oh, okay, when we catalog all this together, this will be the average and this will be the standard deviation. So this presentation is also a provocative presentation for our colleagues in the academia, our colleagues in practice, who also double as researchers to help research into the foods around our area, should go into this so that we can put this together to come up with something we can easily refer to. When I looked around and I could only rely on my unpublished work. So pardon me, and let's bear with me on that. So average of 2 grams per 20 gram portion. So quantity of carbohydrate after deduction of allocation was 256. So if you want to find out how many portions you actually get from 256, we now divide the 256 by 20 grams. And that one will give us 13 servings, 13 portions. 13 portions. Okay, thank you, Inshra. All right, so 13 portions, because each portion that gives us 20 gram carbohydrate gives us 2 gram carbohydrate. So if you divide 256 by 20 grams, we will get 13 portions. Now, how much proteins will there be in 13 portions? So it will be 13 times 2, which is 26 grams. So if we ignored proteins in carbohydrate foods and said that they were insignificant, we would have ignored 26 grams of protein. Can that affect the health of a patient who is critically ill? Yes, it can. So we have to know when to ignore and when to include. But I say, you calculate everything. When you think that the person could do without it, you can add it to your carbohydrate or that, and you move on. All right. So now, how about fat and proteins? Fat in the proteins. So fat in the protein foods, we get, let's look at here. So amount of proteins after deducting allocation was 108 grams. Amount after deducting carbohydrate contribution will be now, remember that we said total protein is now 108. And we have found that 26 grams in carbohydrates are proteins too. So we have to deal with it here. We come to deduct it from the 108. Then we get 82 grams. So usually, when you look at the general exchange list, the Western exchange list we use, an exchange is 7 gram portion, 7 gram protein in an exchange. So if 7 gram in an exchange, which is like a matchbox size, then if we want to know the number of exchanges or portions, we divide 82 here by the 7. So we get 12 exchanges. Now, once we have 12 exchanges, we have to ask ourselves, these 12 exchanges, whether they are beef or they are tuna or they are eggs, would they have some fat in them? And the answer is yes, they will have some fat. Now, the person wants to be healthy. So here, I choose to give lean portions of proteins, lean cuts. And the lean meat I'm giving is giving an average of 2.5 grams of proteins per exchange. So 12 exchanges will be 12 times 2.5, giving us 30 grams. So fat in the proteins will be 30 grams. Now, if the fat in the proteins will be 30 grams, then it means that the total amount of fat that we got from the conversion must reduce, which was 105, will now reduce by 30. So we get 75 grams. As we know, on the exchange list, a serving of fat is oil is a teaspoon, which is 5 grams. 5 grams of fat. So if you want to convert the 75 grams into exchange, we get 15 grams, we get 15 exchanges or 15 teaspoons. Now we know that the insignificant, or what we would say, they are minor nutrients in the major micronutrient foods, we are now getting 30 grams of fat, 26 grams of proteins, and 75 grams, 30 grams of fat, 26 grams protein. Remember that we didn't get any carbohydrate here because the foods here do not have carbohydrates, significant carbohydrates. Significant carbohydrates. So now we have our equivalent food portions. 20 gram carbohydrate portions will give us 13 exchange lists, 13 exchanges. 7 gram protein will give us 12 exchanges. Then 5 gram exchange in the fat and oil will give us 15 exchanges. So then this is what we are going to look at to move to the next step. Okay, now here, let me pause and come to the questions. Let me come to the questions here. I think I have a lot. Collins. Okay, Collins, so we need Ghana-specific data urgently. I think so. I agree with you. I think the recently formed standardization committee is timeous and or is timely. For instance, in some literature, a serving of fish, meat, etc. is 1 ounce. Yes, that's true. So as I said, a serving is specific to the people and the context and the culture. So there are people, when you go to Israel, their serving sizes are quite interesting. So servings could you just have to look at what they are saying is a serving and what it entails. That's true. So we have to work on ours. The ADA food exchange list. Okay, so Alice said I share similar views. Okay, Alice, thank you. Thank you. So we have Vice P. Is that to suggest that the indigenous Ghanaian vegetables are more starchy or contain more carbohydrates? Interesting finding. It seems so. It seems so because when you weigh a serving of cabbage and you weigh a serving of how do you call it? Garden eggs or a serving of okra, the carbohydrates relatively are higher than the cabbage or lettuce. Yeah. All right. So I don't know. I think there's another question. Let me do it so that I continue. Eric Uncle, how varied? Oh, okay. I think we have addressed that. Then Collins, good question. Same on my mind because international standard is 5 grams per serving, so it will be interesting. Sure. So all roads leads to Ghana data. Okay. Percival, okay, my views exactly. Yes, the study is yet to be published. True. Yes, so that is it. Then so agreed. I recommend the newly launched Africa Journal of Nutrition by the African Nutrition Society as a safe home for these pieces of research. Sure. Great. We'll do it. We'll send them there. We'll publish them. 17 starchy foods, grains such as oats, maize, plantain, yam, etc. supplies 1 to 3 grams of protein. Averagely, 17 starchy foods gives 2 grams protein. True. I agree. So I thought that the fat was 56 grams. So deduction after allocation would be 56 minus 20.1. Josephine. Oh, okay. Okay. We'll check it. I'll check it. Then please, will this presentation be shared? Yes, I'll share it. I really have a simple way around by dealing with servings per meal of 3 meals per day, rather than having to deal with total servings per day, which calculation is cumbersome. Okay, so this is a set. Okay, we'll be happy to know that. You can put it together so you share. Then Eric, I'm curious. What do you do? Eric, yeah, so Seth will put it together and we'll see. Really, please share. Let's learn from, yeah, so all of us are on the same page. All right, so let me pause here and move on so that we can close on time. All right, so the proteins, let me check whether I made a mistake. Okay, so we got 56. Yes, so 56. Oh, yes. So here the down should have been 56 minus 20.1. Great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Josephine. I'm grateful. All right. So, okay. So it will be a constant error throughout. So let's work with it so that we don't disturb the calculation. We want to understand the principle so that, and as Seth said, this principle, if you know it and you become conversant with it, it's not cumbersome. If you practice over and over again, use it to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 diets, it becomes, you wouldn't want to, you do it, you finish, and you have gone through all the 9 steps and you don't even know about that. Yeah. So thank you. So here, the exchange list, the fat will not be 15. Yes, as we made a mistake here. Thank you very much, Josephine. All right. So now step 8, convert final gram of micronutrient to food. So for me, because I have the diet history. The person likes millet porridge, likes brown bread, likes jollof, likes yam. So I decided to do that. So carbs, millet porridge is what? 6 soup ladles will give us 40 grams. Then I gave 2 slices of brown bread, what is 40 grams. Jollof, 5 stew ladles rounded, which is 100 grams. Remember that the jollof will be prepared with the total fat that will be made available. Then yam, 4, which is 4 half-moon slices, which is 80 grams. So I have my 260 grams of carbohydrate here. So these are my carbohydrate conversion. Then I come to protein, 1 whole egg, 7 grams, 2 eggs, egg white, 7 grams, 1.5 palm sizes chicken breast, 42 grams, 4 matchbox sizes tuna, 28 grams, total 84 grams. Then we come to fat. This fat is bloated actually because of the error we made upstairs. But let's assume that there wasn't any error so that we can flow with the calculation. So red oil is 5 teaspoons, 25 grams. Avocado, half medium size, 10 grams. Extra virgin olive oil, 8 teaspoons, 40 grams. Total 75 grams. So I've converted my exchanges, the grammage. So here we have 20 gram by 13, 7 gram by 12, 5 gram by 15. So that is what I've done. I've converted them to food. So these are the foods. Now the calories are looking real to us. Then step 9, distribute the food to meal times. So I now come, remember I gave 6 soup ladles of Hausa cocoa. So breakfast, 6 to 8 a.m. I have my Hausa cocoa, 6 soup ladles plus 2 slices of brown bread plus 3 boiled eggs, one whole with 2 without yolk. Then I have my 4 cubes of sugar. Remember, I have allocated 4 cubes of sugar already, plus my 1/4 cup of roasted groundnut. Now, I told him that he either adds the groundnut to his cocoa so it becomes nicer, or he can chew it aside. However he does it, it will still be within his calories, so I don't have any problem. Then snack. Remember, I give four servings of fruit. So I give 2 soft coconut with 8 water or their water. Then in the afternoon snack, I give 2 oranges. The lunch, 5 stew ladles jollof plus fresh salad, 2 soup ladles plus 1.5 palm size grilled chicken breast. Remember, the extra virgin olive oil here is what was used to prepare the stew that was used to prepare the jollof. Then I indicated on his meal plan, you are allowed 250 ml skimmed milk daily. However he wants to take it, whether he wants to take it as part of his snack or after his lunch or dinner, that is fine. Then I have the dinner, 4 half-moon slices of yam, 3 stew ladles kontomire abomu, plus 5 teaspoons of red oil, plus half medium-sized avocado and 4 matchbox sizes tuna flakes. Now, so this is how the 2,500 calorie has now become. And this is, I think that if a professional will be predictive and will be concise with his plan, the person must be willing to go through the discipline of the profession. Very, very crucial and important. So I'll pause here. R.D. Collins, but I was supposed to do this together with him. I was so stressed along the line, I forgot about it. So R.D. Collins, if you are on and you have any word to add, please kindly do so. Then we go on to the question time. So, okay, so someone asked, please, I'm not clear with the serving size of protein. You said 3 ounces is a serving. That means if I'm giving 6 serving, it will be 18 matchbox sizes. Okay. Yeah, no, so you don't give, we don't here, all what I have here is portion sizes, not serving sizes. The serving sizes is the standard you use to get your portions. So, for instance, you're asking, I said 3 ounces is a serving. That means if I'm giving, remember that I said that 3 ounces is about 3 matchbox sizes. So it means that a serving of meat of protein will give you around 21 grams of carbohydrates. So you would have to use the grammage to arrive at your portion. So don't let the servings confuse us. The servings are standards to help us with our references so that it will help us to calculate our portions. But we don't use it. So here I wouldn't say that I gave, so here I said I gave 3 boiled eggs with 1 yolk. I didn't say I gave 3 servings of eggs because they are not the same. These are portions. So plain rice, 3 stew ladles rounded, plus mixed vegetable, 3 handfuls combined with smoked fish, 2 sardine, tin size, stir fried in 3 teaspoons sunflower oil. Okay, so I don't know what is the question about it. Plain rice, 3 stew ladles heaped. Okay, so let me pause here. Collins, kindly unmute and speak.
Yes, hello, RD. Please, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you very much for the hard work. This is not an easy topic to handle. There's usually a lot of confusion around this when this is being taught. So thank you for the hard work. You have really made it simple and easy to follow. Yeah. So I just want to probably, should I say, just a little contribution. from your background statement, you mentioned that last year we had a similar workshop as this, and there was some bit of confusion around. And I think in the course of the presentation, I was able to probably understand the source of the confusion to some extent, and you have addressed it. Two areas I identify. It has to do with the protein servings and then the vegetable servings. Okay. But you have rightly addressed it. So maybe this is just to emphasize on it and then to clarify that in the minds of everyone.
Okay.
Protein serving, when you look at the ADA, American Diabetes Association, and then the former American Dietetics Association exchange list, which most of us are familiar with, you will see a serving of protein foods, fish, meat, etc., to be 1 ounce. 1 ounce. And then the serving of vegetables to be 5 grams. But you have rightly explained to clarify that the 6.5 serving you have referred to in this presentation has to do with some Ghana specific work that you have done.
Yeah.
And I think that brings some clarity. In that, as I was part of the first standardization committee, the former GDA setup. You were part of. And then when we were working on the servings and the serving sizes, we realized that for our local foods, in tailoring them to the international serving 15-gram carbohydrates, we were getting measures that will be difficult to really relate with in practice, i.e., you have a serving of, let's say, plain boiled rice to be 3/4 of a stew ladle. I mean, in practice, how many people will be able to relate to that? The lay population, even dietitians who work in a very busy clinic, sometimes you have to work on your feet, and you need to be counting 3/4 of a stew ladle, I mean, in your meal plan. So we found that when it's rounded to, let's say, 1 stew ladle rounded, we're getting 20 grams. So, and it tends to run across most of the local foods. So that is why we had the 20-gram carbohydrate serving for our Ghanaian foods that we work with. So maybe for the up and coming dietitians, the young ones who are on the, so that's why we have the 15-gram and the 20-gram servings. So that when we are working at contests, we do 20 grams. When you are working in the international context, maybe you're writing your thesis or you are in an international forum and you can also speak to the 15-gram. So that's why we have that. So now it brings clarity why we are having the 6.5. But what I want to mention and maybe encourage our friends is to work to bring the paper to publication, because that will really help provide the evidence to back up this change that we are seeing. And when it goes through publication, that means it will have also gone through expert peer review. So I want to encourage that the such data should be published. And in fact, I'll be happy. I'm part of the new committee anyway, so I'm sure these discussions will go on. So we can see how we can even expand the database to include other food groups and all that. So this is just what I want to bring. I think this should provide some clarity on the new things we are seeing. So perhaps, sorry, I'll round up, maybe perhaps the discussion should now be, should we, since most of us are not privy to this new data, should we wait for it to be published before we work with it? Or that's another conversation we can have. I'm sure members can contribute in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think with your last comments, I think.
Hello, Ardit. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Thank you too. So I think with your last comment, usually the 6.5 average could give a heads up direction, since it's not been peer reviewed and published yet. So what actually, it will only add a little more work to us. That when you are doing the plan, you would have to take the individual vegetables and do your averages. But if that is what we have to do to help our clients, I think we can. But usually, for what I have done, maybe if you could do 1 or 2 or 3 on your own. Just pick a few vegetables on your own and do and see how it relates to the standard I have given. Then we can move on from there. But I believe that the publication, I'll speak to you, coach. I'll speak to you and see whether it will be absorbed into whatever we are going to do. So we publish it together. That's fine. Yeah. So I think, yeah, Vice P, kindly unmute and speak. But before you come, I said, he said 4,900 kilocalories per day, 55% carbs, 33% fat, and 12% protein use, 6-7 carbs, 5-7 fats and oils, and 3-7 proteins per meal. Okay, so here you are using servings, but I don't know what you mean by servings. Seth, can you unmute and clarify before Vice P comes? Seth Ameya.
Hello.
Yes. The servings you are using here.
Hello.
Hello, Seth.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Seth, I can hear you.
Yes. So 1 serving of 10 grams of carbohydrate equivalent of food, of starchy food. For 1 serving of protein, I am looking at 7 grams of protein equivalent of food. And then for fat, I am looking at 5 grams or 1 teaspoon equivalent.
Okay, so you're actually speaking in terms of portions.
Yes.
Portions. Okay. Okay, so your portion here, the 5-7 portion here is actually 5 exchanges.
Yes, please.
Okay. I think since our time is almost close, if you can make make it a presentation, okay? Make it into a presentation. We can discuss it further and see how it can help with practice. Okay.
Sample of my diet sheet, personally or privately, and then I'll WhatsApp you, and then we'll talk backstage.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yes, Percy, Vice P. Hello.
Yeah, actually, they do, Reverend.
Yes,
so I want to commend you for the very detailed presentation and the step-by-step process of carrying through the audience. Well done.
Thank you.
But I just want to comment on the 6.5 grams vegetables.
Carbs. Okay.
Carbs per the Ghanaian vegetables. I think that's a very interesting finding, and that actually significantly changes, in a sense, the way we will carry through our calculations. If we are to hold that through. So the question I had in mind after R.D. Collins spoke was, is it that the servings, the standard servings of vegetables is a Ghanaian or a Ghanaianized serving? I mean, let me restate that. I understand that we are using the 20-gram carbs based on the previous work from the GDA standardization efforts. So it makes a lot of sense in this presentation that we are focusing on the 20 grams carbohydrate per serving. And so is it the case that when it comes to vegetables, we are still applying a Ghanaian standard rather than the international standard? In which case we are getting 0.5 or the averagely. That I just want to clarify that.
No, so like the 7 sizes I gave, in terms of if I were using okra, I would have still fetched the same amount. I think it was 2 soup ladles raw or 1 soup ladle cooked. So it is the same. We use the standard. We compared 7 per 7 for the West amount. So the amount of spinach that is a 7 is what we used for our contomere and our garden eggs. So it's the same in terms of the quantity, is the same. But then the weight we took and related it to the amount of carbohydrate in that weight is what was varying. So for instance, contomere like this didn't have that much of carbohydrate, but garden eggs had. Okra was a little higher than that, but it's the same quantities in terms of the measure.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
So what we did actually, we used a lot of, almost all of our vegetables, and some of the exotic one we use in Ghana a lot. So I think that's how come, like what Alice said, we may have that a bit of difference in the average of 5 instead of average of 6.5 instead of 5, because for ours they were averagely higher up the amount of carbohydrate that we had in the exotic ones.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
My pleasure. Okay. Thank you. So I see Eric. How do you account for patients who take fruit snacks and oral nutrition supplements? Yeah, so remember that along the line, I was saying that if it's oral nutrition supplement, you need to find out whether there is any ingredient of caloric value, because some of the supplements, if they are not found or encapsulated in something that is oily or of carbohydrate origin, then it may not have much impact. But if you look at the label and you have an amount of carbohydrate, an amount of fat in there, you must account for it in your special locations before you come to the place of general locations. I don't know whether that makes it clear.
Was more targeted at sets contribution approach.
Oh, okay. I get it. Yeah. All right. So, okay, thank you, Eric. Thank you for contribution. And please, the full meaning of QPTC. Is that mine? Is it for me? I don't know. Stephen Avoka. Sarah, please, can we have the attendance list? Yes, please. You have. I'll send the attendance list very soon. I don't know whether Senam is Senam online. Okay, please. I'll give the attendance list soon. Forgive me. Today I told you I was moderating and presenting at the same time because of that. Yes, RD Maxwell, kindly speak.
Audible, thank you for the presentation. This is a very technical topic, and I really agree with the concerns that are raised by people about how confusing this topic can be. What I want to find out is, there are some people who normally would do the calculations when they arrive at the servings. They leave allowance for the different nutrients before they do the allocation. I don't know whether you are privy to that style of calculating. I tried that to find out how different it will be from yours.
Okay.
Yes.
What was the outcome like?
So when I got the servings, carbohydrate was it was 19, protein was 18, and then fat was 12. Granted, there are no subtractions and account for the different sources.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, you see, I know of that one too. But in that case, yes, when you get to allocation, like the step 9.
Yes. So in the allocation, they'll drop some number of servings, assuming that you get some amount of carbohydrate from the other sources as well as the protein. So So depending on the discretion of the dietitian, you can decide to drop between 2 to about 3 servings. Okay, so I dropped about 2 servings each from all the other sources, and it came to 17 for carbohydrate, 16 for protein, and 10 for fat. So when I did the allocation, fruit was still maintained at 4 servings. So you have 2 snacks. And then when you take the 2 out of the 17, you'll be left with about, I think it was left with about 16 or so. Then you divide that 16 by 3. Okay, you divide that 16 by 3. So at the end of the day, the breakdown, I had about 5 servings of carbohydrate, that's the starchy carbohydrate, without the fruit and vegetables. So it wasn't so much different from what you got. You got about 6, you know, and then protein, in order not to waste time, protein too was very similar. The difference was about half 1 serving. And then fat, because of the error in your calculation, was a bit different. Mine is a little lesser.
It's less,
so I feel there could be a way to reconcile those this method too, because I feel that is a bit more easier. If there's a way to look at those 2 methods to see what
and to see how we can
make it easy for them. And then quickly on the protein issue. I think for our estimation in Ghana, we use 1 ounce protein for a serving, but most of the foreign database, they use about the palm size.
About 3 and 3.5.
Yes, don't confuse them. So when you get when you are using the 7 gram, when you are doing when you get 3 servings, that will be like 1 palm size. So that's about 3 ounces. So I think we should get that clear. I think you clarified that as well. And then the last thing is, if this patient is buying food outside, it's going to be a challenge. I've had patients talk about practicality and how realistic our interventions are. And one of the things you would hear them say that most dietitians are not realistic. So granted, this patient is buying food outside and he's supposed to have 3 teaspoons of oil per meal, and he's eating a palm nut soup alone. It has swallowed all the servings of fat. How do we address those issues and concerns? When we know practicality, it is not possible to always cook the food from the house because we have to work.
I think you raise very important points. So it brings me back to my last but one comment I made, that actually, like R.D. Maxwell in Legon Hospital, we should have conducted a very important research regarding all the commonly sold foods around our area, and we should have profiled them so we know that the one in Ridge should have done the one around Ridge. We should have profiled them. The one at Tema should have done one around Tema. Profile them. We pull all together. Then it becomes a resource for us. We have a lot to do. We have a lot to do. So you see, sometimes, like you said, I know how very much you are into research. We push these questions so it will push us to work to get the data. So once you say, yes, if the person is eating out, do we have any data about around Accra and restaurants and what their compositions are? That if you're asking somebody to eat in Accra, you know how you can do your calculations. Do we have any serious data on it that is dietetic that could be used? So all these are there for us, those of us who want to do PhD, those of us who want to do MPhil. I think these are the areas we have to look at, that we do the things that will help the profession. So you can cordon off Legon Enclave up to Medina and do a serious, not as in maybe uncooked food audit, but cooked foods. You do work on that and get us something that we can work with. That average, if somebody is eating around around Legon, what are we expecting? If the person is eating around Tema, what are we expecting? So it still comes back to us, Max, that we need to do a lot of work. You are a public health dietitian, so the ball is in your court. Canada Nutrition Center, maybe. Exotic, please unmute and speak. Yeah.
Evening,
Good evening.
evening, Reverend /Daction.
Yes, please.
Excellent presentation. From a dietetic or dietitian or nutrition perspective, the numbers all make sense, but I can't help but resonate off what Maxwell has said, which is practicality, flexibility, reality is not the same on the ground. Made a point at the beginning of this presentation when you said that standard or serving sizes are not standardized. And you made the point of saying that, okay, somebody in Wa, somebody in Accra, somebody in Eastern region and stuff like that. And you're dead on. Even within the regions, there are differences in content of the food. Even within areas, Kenke at Choco versus Kenke at East Legon versus Kenke at Chimota is different. Content, when we talk about nutritional content of fufu, plantain versus cassava ratio, if you go to chop bar number 1 versus chop bar number 2, it's different. Banku, corn versus cassava ratio from one vendor to the other, there is no standardization. And so therefore, when we do it from the theory and it looks good on paper, the applicability that patient is sitting in front of you and they came to Accra from Wa for their clinical applicability of what you're saying falls short, big way. Because when I look at how do I convert when the person tells me that they're using pure millet, when I know that in Accra, they mix corn in the millet, Hausa cocoa. The reality is so far away. I get other dietitians, I get interns asking me this question. How do I make this practical when what the patient understands or the understanding of that patient is so far away from the what we know, the theory aspect of we can crack the numbers. It makes sense. As you're talking, I get fully. But when I sit down with the patient whose education level, understanding level, comprehension level, and the fact that they eat out, which is exactly what Maxwell was saying, they eat out all the time. And from one vendor to another, there's no standard. When I try to apply the theory to the reality, they don't match. So I have to change my thinking. Do you understand? To fit into how I understand the patient is communicating to me and what is realistic. And I agree that we need to come back this over and over and over and over again, because on paper, we can get it all beautifully set up. From the research aspect, we can get it all beautifully set up. But the people that we are trying to communicate and make the change to, if they don't understand the language we are speaking, we lose them.
All right. Okay.
So
thank you.
That's where my concern lies. But thank you very much. Excellent
Pleasure.
presentation.
Pleasure. So I think all of us are now seeing the weight of work on our shoulders. Please, I'll put the forms, the attendance forms there. Kindly fill. Please remember to put your HPC number well. Don't make a mistake with it. Thank you. All right. So I think it's resonating with all of us that we are able to help ourselves identify the shortfalls and make sure we meet them. All that we are saying is the little knowledge we have, the little resources we have, the little evidence we have. Let's use the appropriate structures. Let's use the appropriate techniques to be able to Let's use the appropriate techniques to be able to get the best out of what we have now. I believe that after this, many of us will go into more research to help ourselves. It will get us to publish more work. Then it will help the practice improve. If we are supposed to have a West Africa or Africa dietetic collaborations, we need to contribute also more to it by our own research. So I think the verdict is out, and the environment is there for us for a taking. If we work hard, we can help our people better. Yeah. Thank you very, very much. We are 6 minutes beyond our time, and I want to say a very big thank you to all of you for joining, and your contributions also in the chat box and orally as well. Let's all of us work hard. Let's make sure that when people come and see us, they will get the best, and we can be predicted. Yeah.
How the Prince?
Hey,
you cannot do the presentation. You cannot do the presentation and thank yourself. So
okay,
on behalf of
sir.
all of us who listen to you,
Please.
we want to say a big thank you for taking us through this, and thanks to all the contributors. And the call to action, let's all take it up and right in the corner where we are. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Former GDA president, R.D. Chukudi, Wise Lecha. Thank you for doing the needful. All right, so R.D. Lecha, since you have rounded up for us, can you please do us the honors and give us the closing prayer?
All right, so Father Lord, we thank you for your goodness and your mercy. We thank you for how far you have brought us. We thank you for the lessons learned. May you help us consolidate them and help us in our practice. May you take care of our patients. The reason why we are into this is to better the lives of people. We pray that you affect them. We know that healing comes from you. So all the patients that we attend to, may you heal them.
Yes,
may you
Lord.
help us. May you endue all of us with wisdom.
Yes.
May you help our association grow in wisdom. We thank you for our presenters. May you continue to help them in everything they do. Thank you, Lord.
Amen.
In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. So please, I will unshare.
Please, can you reshare the registration link? Some of us went off, and when we came back,
okay,
we have lost it.
Okay, I'll send it right away. It's there. I've sent it. So please, I'll unshare. We'll share the slides as well. But then let's have some. If you want to greet someone, kindly do so before we all leave. Say hi to someone. Before
hi,
we. Hey, Pelbanza, I can't see your face. You are hiding. Okay, how are you?
Yes, I'm hiding. And then Sir Colin, hi.
Hello, how are you doing? Nice to hear your voice.
Hey, yeah. Chief.
Yes, please, Dr. Apre.
Oh,
okay.
He's good. He's doing well.
Dr. Atta.
Thank God.
Dr. Atta.
Hey.
Hello, Reverend. This is Frederick Adibuka.
Hey, Fred.
My brother.
I salute.
I salute both.
Sure.
Great presentation. Sure. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah. Bless you. Vice P, thank you for when I saw the Ghana people, the governing board. My back was heavy. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
perhaps there. I'm suggesting that you stop the recording.
Hey. Oh, where is it? Okay, let me do something.
And then we can linger on with the greetings.
Yes.